All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into evangelism, a topic that for a lot of Christians brings up two totally opposite feelings: incredible joy and, well, a whole lot of anxiety. We're going to explore how to get from that feeling of anxiety to seeing it as a powerful spiritual discipline.
So, our source for this explainer kicks things off with this really powerful idea. It's not talking about evangelism like it's some chore you have to do, but as an experience that's, well, almost intoxicatingly joyful. It's presented as one of the most deeply satisfying and life-giving things a believer can do.
But, and this is the big paradox at the heart of all this, that amazing feeling of joy is sitting right next to this crippling anxiety. The author makes a great point. You can find Christians who are confident in almost every other area of their faith, but almost nobody feels like they're doing enough evangelism. So what is going on here? Okay, so if we're going to get to the bottom of all that anxiety, we've got to first understand where the expectation even comes from. The source argues it's not just a nice idea, it's a core command.
First things first, let's get a clear definition on the table. The source really just boils evangelism down to something pretty simple. It's communicating the gospel. That's it. It's not about a fancy presentation or getting a certain result. It's just about faithfully sharing the core message.
And this expectation, it's not just a vague idea. The source points out that it's grounded in a direct command from Jesus Christ himself, and it's repeated 5 different times in the Bible. This isn't just a suggestion. It's famously known as the Great Commission. And this is maybe the most crucial point. The source is really clear on this. This is not some special gift that only a few super charismatic people have. It's framed as a responsibility for every single believer, right where they are, whether that's on the other side of the world or just on the other side of the street.
Okay, so if the command is so clear, if it's for everyone, why does just the word evangelism make so many of us break out in a cold sweat? Let's, dig into that fear.
Yeah, the source points to a bunch of reasons this is so scary. You've got that feeling of, I'm not trained enough, I don't know all the answers. Then there's the huge fear of just social rejection, right? Of being seen as weird or pushy. And then you have the incredible weight of it all. This feeling that a person's eternal destiny is riding on this one conversation. That is a lot of pressure.
And this feeling of failure, it is so common. In fact, the source cites this one study that found, get this, a staggering 9 out of 10 Christians feel like they've failed when they try to share their faith. 9 out of 10. With stats like that, it's no wonder so many people just avoid the topic entirely.
And to show just how real this is, the author tells this very personal story from law school. He'd been praying for a chance to talk to a friend, and the friend finally asks him, "Hey, why are you always so cheerful?" Perfect opening, right? But instead of sharing, he just froze, paralyzed, afraid of what his friend would think. All he could say was, "I don't know." It just shows how that fear can completely short-circuit our best intentions. Okay, so this is where everything starts to shift. This is the real turning point in the explainer, because the source argues that getting over this fear isn't about just trying to be braver. It's about completely changing the way we think about the whole thing. And it all starts with one simple but totally game-changing question. What does it actually mean to be successful when we share our faith? So on the one hand, you've got the view that causes all the stress. Success means the other person converts. And if they don't, well, you failed. But the author flips this completely on its head. On the right, success is simply being a faithful messenger. Did you share the message clearly and with love? That's it. You succeeded. The result? That's up to God. I love this analogy the source uses. We're like the postal service. Think about it. A mail carrier's job is done when the letter is delivered accurately. They don't hang around to see if you liked the letter, right? Their success is in the delivery. Our job is just to deliver the message. And the reason this new definition works, the reason we can let go of the pressure, is because the power doesn't actually come from us or our slick arguments anyway. According to the source, it comes from 2 places: the Holy Spirit, who empowers the person sharing, and the gospel message itself, which has its own power to change hearts. Here's another great picture to help with this. Sharing the gospel is like handing out lightning rods during a thunderstorm. Our job isn't to make the lightning. We just have to faithfully hand out the rods, the gospel message, so that when God's power does strike, there's something there for it to hit.
Okay, so we've got this whole new way of thinking about it. Less pressure, right? So how do we actually do it? Well, the source says we need to start treating evangelism like a discipline.
And really, this is the big idea. If we just sit around waiting for that perfect, spontaneous moment to share our faith, it's probably never going to happen for most of us. It has to be something we plan for, something we're intentional about, a spiritual discipline, just like reading the Bible or praying. So what does that actually look like? Well, the author gives some really simple, concrete steps. First, actually schedule time. Put it on your calendar, lunch with Sarah. Second, get good at asking questions, not to trap them, but to really understand them and what's going on in their life. And third, and this is huge, just offer to pray for them. Asking someone, "How can I pray for you?" can be one of the most powerful and caring things you do. And look, this isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. The source points out that some people are just naturally wired for service-oriented evangelism, showing the gospel through kindness, hospitality. Others are more comfortable just speaking the message. But the key for both? It has to be intentional. But there's a really important warning that comes with this. The author tells the story about a new Christian talking to his old boss. He basically said, "You were the reason I wasn't interested. You lived such a good life, but you never told me it was because of Christ. I just thought I could be a good person on my own too." And that's the whole point right there. Living a good life, a changed life, is absolutely vital. It opens the door. But the source is really clear. It's not enough by itself. At some point, the actual message of the gospel, which the text says holds the real power to save, has to be spoken out loud. Which really brings us to our final thought. If evangelism isn't this scary performance we have to put on, but it's a faithful discipline, what's one small, intentional action you could plan to do? Maybe this week. And that question kind of takes this whole big topic and puts it right into our daily lives. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.